Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to episode 13 of Give Freedom a Chance, the podcast from the Libertarian Party UK, where we try to provide some food for thought in a complicated world about libertarian solutions to the problems that we are all facing. I'm your host, Luca Bocci. I've been a journalist for more time than I care to admit. And obviously, as you've seen from our posts on social media and the description of this video, we will discuss the situation that is happening these days in Britain when history calls the establishment is letting us down massively because nothing seems to be working. Things that were pretty much commonplace not more than 20 or 30 years ago are now becoming impossible. Even sending a single Royal Navy ship to Cyprus to defend RAF bases, so national territory of the United Kingdom, is being, it's ridiculous. No one seems to be able to do that. And while other nations obviously are showing very different capabilities. I don't care particularly what you think about the war, but this is a testament to the fact that the establishment is failing. And again, the government is doing U-turns after U-turns. Keir Starmer is making a fool of himself on the global stage. And this obviously reflects very badly on the economy and on living standards of people in the United Kingdom. We think that this is not something that is written in stone. We don't think that this is the only way a country should work. We think that a different future is possible, a libertarian future that will actually make our lives easier, give us back our freedoms, and all in all, be better for every one of us. Obviously, we will discuss all of these topics and just give food for thought in our very informal conversation, our style. That if you followed us in the past, you know that we don't take ourselves too seriously, but we talk about very, very serious topics. Again, I can't stay here watching at my old camera that is still working, thank God. I need to have some guests with me, and I'll just turn on the microphones because otherwise it would be very, very bad. And here we go. So again, we have Phil Janos, is a libertarian member and a commentator and activist. Are you based in Manchester, Phil?
Yes. I'm actually located in. I used to live in Levenshulme, which was part of the by-election, actually, but that was a few years ago. I moved now to Droylsden, which is just outside, so I could not vote actually for this one. But I was there to support Dan Clark with his campaign. So
that was actually very good because, as always, people tend to look only at the raw numbers, but in reality, in such a heated environment with the by-election and everything, all the attention of the media was there. It was very beneficial for the Libertarian Party to be actually out there canvassing, meeting people. And because I'm sure I've heard Alex, the leader of the Libertarian Party UK, they said some people would, when you knocked at the door, they were just saying, "Oh, really, libertarians? Do you exist?" Because this is the biggest question. So it was actually a very good thing for the party. And as always, we have Marco Bocci, the Libertarian Party UK coordinator for London and the South East. Hi, Marco.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm glad to be back.
Okay, that's very, very good to be back. You will have noticed by the fact that we have the same surname that it's not a coincidence, because actually Marco is my brother and we used to live together when I was living in the UK a few years ago. Again, we will just delve into the subjects and everything because as people know, at this point, if you have followed this podcast a bit, I'm not living anymore in the UK. I lived there for almost 10 years, and then I got promoted and moved to Germany, and then I'm back to Italy, where I'm originally from. And looking at the situation from a distance, it's really, really disheartening for someone that knows the UK a fair amount, because the thing I'm getting is that nothing seems to be working. It's just, I was just reading on X yesterday, I think, that said that when the Argentinian junta back in 1982 decided to invade the Falkland Islands, it took 3 days to send an armada of 132 ships. And they were on their way in 3 days, because on Friday they invaded, on Monday they were leaving Portsmouth and other bases of the Royal Navy. And now we have been told that to send a single frigate, they're saying, oh no, yeah, the shipyards cannot work overtime because, otherwise the unions, they get mad. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is impossible to think. The first time I was in the UK was back in 1988, so a long time ago. And people were outraged that Italy, in terms of GDP, had overtaken the United Kingdom. But the country was alive, was vibrant. You could see that things were working, at least. It was the bare minimum. And now, nothing seems to be working. And it's absolutely crazy. So we don't need to get into the details of why the procurement is wrong, how is it possible that the entirety of the Royal Navy is in the docks to be refit at a situation when there is a crisis that is the biggest crisis in the last quarter of a century. But it's just that, I don't know, Marco, it's just that it seems to me that now we're coming to terms with the fact that the policies that we've been doing since probably the election of Tony Blair have managed to completely destroy the system. And this is unbelievable, because when we were growing up in Italy, we were looking at Britain and saying, oh my God, if only we could be there. Because, things work there. Bureaucracy might exist, but it is normal. It's not insane. It's not crippling. And now I think unemployment is lower in Italy than it is in the UK, which is insane.
Mm-hmm. No, on the topic of the Navy, not being capable, I think this is you've hinted at it, Luca. It's a process that's been ongoing for many years, and it continued under the Conservatives, and it basically reached the appalling state where we are now, which effectively a maritime power like Britain and Ireland doesn't have a fleet to defend itself, because everything is in dock, being repaired, refitted, whatever. It's the result of many years of careful dismantling and obviously rampant corruption. I seem to have some figures regarding the procurement in the UK that is being the worst of all the developed nations. Basically, we're getting £1 value for every £4 spent. So it's really, that is one thing. And then obviously there's the concerted effort to dismantle the army in all kinds. I have seen on X cases of people, perfectly fit young men wanting to join the army, that have been rejected and keep being pushed around, and they don't get to join. So this is just, I don't know how many people are affected by this, but and I think it's the pride of in the nation that is being dismantled. It's just all going down to the simple petty corruption, and we can't do this. It's just discouragement. It's just I must say, with a leadership like that, and that we have now, and we have had in the last 15 to 20 years, this is not surprising, because we never had anyone at the helm capable of standing by any principle. It was always me and my friends. It was always, get as much as you can. And what do you expect everyone to behave if the leaders are showing this example? Of course, they're going to follow.
I know. This is kind of the situation. I think that the news broke out today about an internal document of the Home Office that says that displaying the Union Jack or the St. George's flag is considered the sign of hate. So if you're showing the flag of your country, you are considered to be an extremist. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is absolutely bonkers.
No,
because nationalism doesn't work, but
sorry
you
to
are
interrupt.
just go ahead.
On this one, Luca, it's crazy. It seems that they have recognized all the nationalities, say the Welsh, Scottish, Northern Ireland. They all been recognized as kind of nations, right? The English, no. It's like they are being granted protection of, you have for the Equality Act, you have something that needs protecting, a culture defined. The English, no. That's
Yeah, I
why.
know.
That's
Now,
true.
no,
Like,
but I don't know, Phil. I think that to me that is just that we were saying we don't particularly like all the identitarian talk about the fact that saying, oh yeah, if Marco is a British citizen, I'm not because I knew that I wanted to move back, and so I didn't take the nationality. I lived long enough. I could have applied for a British citizenship, and in hindsight, it was a mistake probably. But the whole point is that you say Marco is a British citizen, is naturalized, and but now there are people that say that, oh no, you're not really British, and I say, well, I'm not. Marco is not. We grew up in Italy. We have a different culture, but we actually aligned with British values. We speak English fairly well, not exactly probably to native level, but pretty close. I mean, I've worked for many years as a journalist. So yeah, you need to be proficient in the English language to do that.
Sure.
But in terms of saying, they say, if I subscribe to the values of Britain, which are not inclusivity and anything, but it's just the fact that you should be reliant on yourself, you should want the government not to interfere in what you're doing, entrepreneurship, valor, hard work, respecting the rules. This is what it means to be British. And so I'm saying that Marco is not a British citizen because he wasn't born there, or because he didn't watch Blue Peter on the telly when he was young. I think it's rubbish. But if you're making it so that showing your flag, the flag of your country, is considered hateful, well, Tommy Robinson will have a field day with that. I mean, Phil, it seems crazy.
So I kind of have a relevant story to you a little bit. Well, maybe not so much, but basically I moved out from Poland when I was 10, and I moved to Wales, actually. I was just 1 week ago, I was there for the St. David's Day. Just after the parade, though. I was watching the football game before, so I didn't manage to get there in time. But all of this identitarian stuff you talk about, it can even relate to the Gorton and Benton by-election, right? There was a guy from Advanced UK that was talking about it, and he made a distinction about the nation, the English nation or British nation, and the citizenship, right? Because their argument is essentially that there are two distinct things. Of course, is it Marco? Marco, yes. Here subscribes to the British values, right? So individual liberty is at its point, looking back at history, right? So there is that too. But like, for example, about myself, I never thought of myself as like Welsh, even though I grew up there, right? Maybe a little bit British when I was like growing up, right? I was also in a Polish family, right? So that's another cultural thing to be in. But I don't really think about that like a big Pole about I don't identify myself as Polish either, right? So it's kind of like it's kind of like a different. It's like where I'm, like my point of view. It's essentially like when I was listening to Nick Buckley, I think he was from Advanced UK, he was kind of longing for the old, like how he grew up, right? It was just English people, and people identified themselves as English. And even now you have like, oh, am I English? Am I British? It's kind of like lately it's more English again, right? So I was just thinking to myself while I was listening to him in the hustings. So it's like where can we like find a consensus at least or something like that. You know, if I was talking to him, since he mentioned he wants a small state too, although I don't know how you can have a small state when you're a nationalist. And that's a different bag. That's something else. Just to continue the point with identity, right? So, like, how do we solve this, right? Because I think I've heard you, Luca, mentioning on the other podcast. Like, I only watched like 3 before this, so I didn't watch all of them, but I'll try from now on. It's really good. I actually like him. I do like him. So I'll just try to tie it in what I'm trying to say here. It's essentially, where do we find like at least the middle ground with people like that? And I was just thinking it's royalism, right? Which is not really something you would talk about in liberal circles or libertarian circles, right? Because you straight away associate this with status, right? So that's a no-no.
I think
right?
on the nationality question is really a tricky one, and I do think that we need to do something in that space to recognize the fact that there are people who have been, who their families lived here for generations, and there are others like myself and you, Phil, who arrived after. And to say that these two groups of people should be treated the same is, certain people thinks this is not
equality
fair,
before the law.
because the true indigenous families, if you like, they built for generation this country. And I think a distinction is needed to how do we sort of treat these two groups of people differently, because for certain things I do believe that the people who have been here before or longer need to be recognized as having some kind of priority versus the people who just arrived, simply because even if you behave like in your best interest, you know, if you in the best interest of the country, you just haven't built it the same way as the generations have.
Sure. But then I can tell you, right, that there are like second generation or third generation of people from Bangladesh or something like that, or India, but they're culture. So I was trying to tie this in what Luca said before in another podcast, that they have a shame-based culture, I think, instead of the guilt-based culture, which we have here more thanks to Christianity, right? It doesn't matter if you're Christian or not. I'm just saying where it comes from, that because we feel guilty first, it's coming from the individual, so we can self-regulate our behavior essentially. So that's another problem. Even though you have like a second and third generation, right? They still have a different culture, right? So even you could even say that I'm Pearson's fan, essentially. Yeah. So you could even say that even though I'm I grew up as a teenager, right? I came as a teenager to Britain. I'm already closer culturally to England than they have been for 3 generations, right?
No. I think at this point the fundamental thing is that Britain doesn't believe in itself anymore. So when we say British values, I think that the whole expression is being so tainted by the media and by the mealy-mouthed spokesperson and PR stuff and spin doctors and say, oh no, British values is actually accepting everyone while denying your culture and while thinking that all other cultures are the same or even better because we are bad, we are imperialists, we are nationalists, we are racist, we are blah, 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 and so on. So if I look back, I think that, well, Britain actually ended slavery at great cost, because they were buying slaves from the slave traders in Africa to free them. And it took us, 2 centuries to repay the debt. And the Royal Navy fought for decades to kill the transatlantic slave trade and to kill the slave trade that was trans-Saharan, because from Africa they were going to the North Africa and they were going to the Gulf area and to Persia and so on. So Britain has never been specifically racist, because they say, oh no, yeah, they traded and stuff. Well, they were traders. They were trading stuff. When it was legal, they were trading human beings, which is bad. But it was done everywhere. And nobody thinks and nobody remembers when we had Barbary slaves that were going to Ireland, and they were going to Cornwall, and they were going to the rest of the UK, like they were doing in Spain, France, Italy, Greece, and so on. And they were ravaging villages and taking people and selling them in Algiers, or selling them in Tunis, or selling them in Istanbul back in the days. So nobody remembers this, but we're just all ready to point out and say, oh, we are bad, we must be punished. And I'm just thinking to myself and saying, well, you come from a shame-based society where every insult is done not to the individual, but to the family, to the clan. And they're saying, well, that's perfectly fine when you are in Bangladesh, when you are in Pakistan, when you are in India, when you are somewhere else. If you are living in the UK, this doesn't work, because we do things differently. Because here is the individual that matters. But if you are destroying everything about your culture and thinking that showing an English flag is a hate crime, while Palestinian flags, while Ukrainian flags, while every other kind of flag in the world is fine, and Birmingham is lighting up the public library in the colors of Pakistan to celebrate Independence Day from the UK, it's just maddening to me. But
I think, Luca, to go back to your initial point where you say that nothing is working, it's just comes from the top. As I said, it's a crisis of values. It's a government and a party that was elected to deliver change, that they got elected telling the people, stop with the Tory sleaze and corruption, and we'll bring real change, we'll give back to the people. And well, guess what? They have been worse than the Tories in less time. So for scandals of corruption, spy, I mean, the whole Chagos deal, do we want to talk about that? I mean, there's an endless list. You have geniuses like Lamy going on national TV saying that Cyprus is member of NATO. Thank God. I mean, that's great. Well done. You could have read the 10 minutes before that, before saying something this stupid. You know, it's just complete incompetence. We're having a prime minister that does more U-turns that I don't know, that a truck driver on a, you know, I don't know. It's just devoid of any human value. I mean, what value do you assign to that PM? It can't stand for anything. You have videos of him saying one thing and 2 seconds the opposite. Is trying to do one thing and then, oh no, it's not going down well with the polls. So let's do a U-turn. You had I don't know if you managed to see the video of the Westminster iftar where you see him groveling to all the Muslim because, oh my God, the next election I'm gonna be completely losing it if you guys don't vote for me. It's like in constant, election mode. He cannot govern. It's like they really don't have a plan. They were all starting looking like, yes, they're hitting the ground running. Look amazing. Look how many things they're doing. It's a rudderless ship. And moreover, you get scandals after scandals after scandals. I mean, you said a few, the China spy. Initially, the MP said, no, nothing to do with me. No, it's all fine. Then he suddenly resigned. Oh, really? Wow. If it was nothing, why do you resign then? You know.
Of course. No, but it's just the point is that they're not even trying. So the charades are up. I think the charades are up. It's just like saying they're only there to manage power and they're only there to further their agenda. So I was just looking at the markets just to slightly change the topic. And obviously with the closure of the Hormuz Strait, oil prices going through the roof, so liquefied natural gas, LNG, is going through the roof. And so we're just thinking in terms of saying, hold on a second, the UK has got significant resources. It's got significant stock of trade. So proven resources, the proven reserves of natural gas in the UK, they're not just the one in the North Sea where we're not allowed to drill anymore, but Norway is, and they have built up a sovereign fund that is trillions of dollars and stuff. And by the same time, the UK has got trillion cubic meters of natural gas in shale deposits. So if you just reversed the fracking ban of 2019, you could start producing. Not immediately, obviously you need time to drill and do the surveys and everything, but you could start to drill and cut down massively the import of liquefied natural gas. This would drive prices down. And so maybe having a factory in the UK will be possible, and you will be able to start building something again. And made in Britain can become like it used to be, because in the 50s and 40s, made in Britain was, excellence. And now
totally agree.
Produce
but
nothing.
That Luca would mean that people, in charge have a strategy. They know what's the objective. They're working actively towards achieving it with a plan. Whatever you may agree or not, but it kind of implies that there's a plan behind it. And there's a mind at work on how to deliver it. This is just. And you can see it by the way, when they respond, they either avoid completely responding to questions, which is something that I find, incredible. How can they dodge questions? But the policies, you can definitely see that the policies and the things that they said to get elected, they were never meant to actually put them in place. It was just a talking point. It was just, let me say whatever the hell I need to get in power. Once I'm there, we do totally opposite. You've seen it, like completely. Nothing of the things they did was even mentioned in the manifesto. The ID, the digital ID, this Chagos deal that got out of nowhere. All these things that they're doing, nothing was planned. Nothing at all. Nothing was in the manifesto. Because it was just rubbish. It was just things they said to get elected. And honest to God, what I find it totally incredible is that a developed nation doesn't have a mechanism to recall an MP, a sitting MP, while going completely against the manifesto that they've elected.
Well,
literally can be recalled only if he's doing some acts of, if he's getting convicted for something. There's no rule to say if people in your constituency, like 20%, whatever that is, 20% of your constituency manage to sign a piece of paper that says, I want you out, you should be kicked out, because you're doing so badly that you have betrayed the contract that you told people you would do something. Then you go there and you do totally the opposite. There should be a way to remove you, not wait 5 years until it's done.
It's a representative democracy.
Yeah, but said there has to be binding. We said it many times. The manifesto has to be binding. If you don't do anything you've been voted for, you should be removed. There should be a mechanism to allow people to remove you. And honestly, if they did have it, none of these people would be there. They would be gone already, because they have done so against what they've been voted for.
I think there's been many instances of politicians switching parties while they were already elected,
Yeah,
so
how can that not trigger a by-election is another good point. Like, you can't just decide to leave, just go away, do something else.
I know, because this is the whole point. It's the point that people have forgot that it's a representative democracy, but it's not the fact that you send people to Westminster and then they do whatever they please. They are sent there to represent their constituency. So they're there to voice the opinion. They present a program, they present a manifesto, whatever. They said, I'm going there because the industrial estate here doesn't have a good enough connection to the highway. So I'm going there to promote local businesses. I'm going there because there is a problem with, the park or whatever, the ring road around Manchester or whatever. I don't know, a local issue. You're going there after 4 years. You're going back to the voters and said, "Here is what I did. I plan to do these other things in the next 4 years. Will you give me your vote?" If people do so, then you're fine. If people look at what you did and said, "No, you did nothing of what I sent you to do in Westminster, goodbye," that's it. But that's also the point. The point is that the British politics have been moved so backwards, because back in 1988, when I was here, you would ask any British person, they would know who their MP was. They would know where he was born, where he was raised, what his father did, because he was a local lad or a local girl. So they were there and they were representing their area, their neighborhood, their stuff. People knew them. That's how you got votes, because you went around, you went to the pub, you went to the local, I don't know, community center or whatever. People knew you. They had faith in you. They sent you to Westminster to do their bidding. Now you have people chosen from London, parachuted into a constituency and said, yeah, vote for him. As I said, Reform sent Matt Goodwin to Gorton and Denton. And they said, oh yeah, he's born in Manchester. Yeah, but it's been 20 years that he's living in London. He's been working at universities and stuff. He knows more about the GB News studios than what goes on in Gorton and Denton. So it's not exactly local. So, I mean, this is baffling, because I'm thinking right now, there is so many things that do not work that you would just need to just scrap everything and go back to the drawing board.
Pretty much.
Yeah, Phil.
You know, because it's finding competent people in the constituency that will be another problem. And now define what's competent for that specific to be an MP, you know, that's another thing. So maybe like a solution here could be direct democracy, something like that. But that's a big topic too. So
I know, because nobody wants to talk about it, because the fact is that I think that the establishment in general, left, center, right, whatever, they don't trust the individual. Never do that, because they say, oh yeah, in theory, direct democracy would be good. But then you would just pose questions to people that know nothing about the subject, as if David Lammy knew anything about whatever he's in charge of. Or as Rachel Reeves, do you really believe she's an economist? Or do you believe she knows what she's doing? Do you really believe that? No, I've got a nice amphitheater in Rome, I can sell you. Yeah, it's a real bargain. Just trust me. Trust me, bro.
The problem with the level of the what you just said about politicians not being local anymore, and the problem of getting incompetent people in Westminster anyway, I think it's all down to the fact that you've hinted at this, Luca. When Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister and was elected, at that point, you had the local Conservatives and Labour party members who would sit down and go through all the people who wanted to become a candidate for MP, assess their candidacy, hear them out, hear them talk, hear them understand how they viewed things on all the topics that they cared about, and they chose only the person that they thought was best. The decision was made by the bottom up, not the other way around, not from the top, forced onto the people on the ground. That's why we don't have any more people who you know, they are being parachuted, selected by the National Coordinating Committee, and it's opening to all kinds of external influences. Starmer himself has been placed in a similar way where he is now. He's been, you know, there's external forces at play. The labor activists themselves, I'm sure there's loads of them who are unhappy. You can see the resurgence of the Greens, because they don't want these people. They don't want him. They don't want anything to do with what he's doing. You know, they're disgusted the same way that everybody else is with the type of politics that they're doing, that the incompetence with the corruption and all of that. So they took out the decision from the real people. That's why it's all gone down the drain.
I would advise everyone to just go back to the iPlayer or something. I'm pretty sure they still have it there. And just look at Yes Minister or Yes, Prime Minister, the TV series from the BBC from the 80s, because they are, you think, oh yeah, this is back in the 80s, this is old news and stuff. No. The establishment, the bubble, the Westminster bubble still works like that. When you have Sir Humphreys that says, you know what happens if the right people are not in charge, the wrong people are. And for them, the wrong people is whoever is not part of the Oxbridge bubble of certified people, of the civil servants, the people that know actually what is best, and not the politician, not the local people. Local people know nothing. They would just decide stuff in 3 seconds. They will have a meeting and then decide it. Instead, we need to do a policy plan, and then we need to do briefings, and then we need to do conferences, and then we need to do back and forth, documents and stuff. Marco, you work with local governments and stuff, and you know all about regulations and all about the mountains of paperwork that are needed to do even the simplest of things. And people think that this is fine because it gives them months of fruitful work and obviously oversized salaries. So I was just reading that the head of the police union, which by the way is a man of Indian origin that had no experience in policing at all. He's getting £700,000 salary, God only knows how, and still managed to steal stuff and to get kickbacks.
He got in jail, right? He got found out and put in jail.
And now he's in jail. But I'm just thinking to myself and saying, okay, guys, there is something really wrong. And the other thing that I wanted to discuss is just that by having the wrong people in charge and they know nothing about that, actually they are destroying the foundation of British power, because not many people realize that the closure of the Hormuz Strait in the Persian Gulf is not only because Iran said we're going to shoot drones to the tankers and then we're going to sink them, but it's just because the Lloyds of London and the reinsurance conglomerate that is dominating 45% of naval insurance decided that they're not just going to raise the prices, they're going to cancel the policies. So they said, from now on, if Iran sinks one of your tankers that is hundreds of millions of pounds worth, we don't pay anything. So obviously, if you're a ship owner, you're just saying, stop the machines, we still don't do anything because I'm not doing that. What happened? It happened that the Trump administration in America said, okay, there is this federal agency that has nothing to do with insurance, but they're saying, okay, fine, we will put 20 billion in charge of money available, and so we will offer you policies at a discounted price. And if Iran doesn't stop doing that, we will escort the ships to the points. Because the problem is that you cannot shut down an oil well, or you cannot shut down a gas well, because if you do that, it will take months to go back to production, and it's risky. Because obviously you have a buildup of gas and stuff, it can create cracks, it can destroy the equipment. So you cannot really stop drilling, you cannot stop extracting oil or gas. Once you filled up the tanks, it's a problem. It's a big problem. So right now you're just thinking, it's been 3 centuries that London has been the global hub for maritime insurance. And this was because they were connected to MI6. So the Secret Service knew what was going on around the world, and they were able to give the information to Lloyd's and other reinsurers, and they would put an assessment that was educated assessment with the best intelligence available. Then you put the labor in charge, and they cooperate with India. They do the big mega embassy right next to the city so that they can spy on everything that the city does.
China, Luca. Yeah, China.
Sorry. They do that with China, and then obviously the Trump administration says, I don't really trust them anymore, so I'm not sending them the info. If the Lloyds don't have the info, they are not able to make an assessment of the situation, which means that they are not able to offer a quote that is reasonable. So if the shipping companies decide, I'm going to take up the offer of America, if you think that when the crisis is over, they're going to back to the Lloyds of London, think again. So a 3 centuries almost monopoly, because everybody in the world when they had to do, I don't know, I have a skyscraper, I want to insure a skyscraper against earthquake or anything, they would go to Lloyd's of London because they had the best info, they had the best intel, they had the best situation. And then they would shop around with quotes, but pretty much they were setting the price. Now, because Starmer has cozied up to China and did all sorts of things and went against Trump, the special relationship is gone. They don't have the info and they risk losing the market. But think again, we're talking about tens of billions of pounds of profits every single year. And you think that the prices of houses in London are going to stay the way they are? Think again. So this is just unconscionable, because this was part of what made Great Britain special, because Great Britain is always punch above this weight, because they had the insurance thing, because they had the financial markets, because they had the soft power, whatever. Now, soft power is all ridiculous, because they spent, I think, I've read that the Conservative governments, they spent around 50 billion pounds, or actually no, 300 billion pounds in terms of international cooperation. And obviously soft power is nothing. They just gave money to their friends and then they just shuffled money around. So we are crippling the country, destroying the work of hundreds of years, just because we send the wrong people in. But then they say, you libertarians don't have any solutions. And I said, well, allow me to disagree. I think we do have a solution. So Phil, what would be anything that you think that it could be a way out of this? Not just competency or anything, but the thing that could be making, I don't know, giving trust, because people don't trust the government anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how to answer it, but like you mentioned trust, right? When I hear you talking about all of this, it's like all of the wars going on and the battles between now UK and US by the looks of it. It's like during war times, the truth dies first. So I can't even make an informed decision or anything like that. Because if I read the news, it's probably not all right there, like all true, so what else can I say to you? The truth dies first in like wartime.
I know. This is the point, but the thing that I'm more worried about is just the lack of seriousness. I think last night, aside from the fact that if you're not on X, you're not getting the news, because the whole point of saying BBC Persian, I don't know if you read about that. So the World Service, the BBC in Farsi, so you would go there, which should be Parsi because it's Persian. It's just that the Arabic doesn't have the P sound, so they just call it Farsi. But if you talk to an Iranian, they say, no, the language we're speaking is Persian. It's just that the Arabs change it. So this is the main thing. So the speech from Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War of the US, it was mistranslated voluntarily to imply that America and Israel are bombing the Iranian people, while Pete Hegseth said, we are bombing the Iranian regime. So obviously it was different. And they were saying, oh yeah, it's just a honest mistake. Honest mistake, my ass. Sorry about
BBC
swearing,
honest? They don't go near those two words.
No, I know. That's the point. When I was training to be a journalist back in 1990,
it was the standard, yeah. You would look up to them, yes.
I would look up to the BBC, because in terms of journalistic ethics and standards and everything, and the proper way to speak and the pronunciation, enunciation and everything, it used to be the golden standard. Everybody in the world would look at the BBC and said, oh, they said that this is what has happened, it must be true. Now it's completely gone. Now you're just thinking, oh no, they're just lying. But the point is that yesterday I read that Lockheed Martin had been contacted, so one of the major US defense firms, had been contacted by the Trump administration months in advance and saying, we don't know, but there could be something happening in a certain theater of the world. And so you need to ramp up production. Of special ammunition, because there might be something coming. Obviously, it was all reserved, highly classified and everything. So they just said, we have made the preparations and now we are quadrupling the production of certain munitions. As a libertarian, not particularly happy because it's taxpayers' money, and we would like money to go back to people. But if you're serious about solving an issue that is quite critical, after all, the Iranian regime killed 40,000 of people, unarmed citizens on the street, shooting them point blank, and going to the hospital and finishing them, killing them assassination style. So they're not good people. And if they would go away, the world would be better for it. But if you are serious about that, you would plan things ahead. I mean, Poland, I just read a few months ago, they said the situation in Ukraine is serious, Russia is very aggressive, we need to prepare. So we are making explosive plans. We are opening new factories. We are ramping up production of 155 millimeter artillery shells. We are ramping up a military industry because we don't know if the Russian army will be going to us next. So they are preparing. Is it something that as libertarians we like? Not particularly, because it's public money and it would be better spent elsewhere. But if you risk having tanks coming through your city, like it happened so many times in Poland in the past, because, you know, centuries of invasions and occupations and stuff.
World War II would look differently if everyone had a gun. World War II would look differently if every Jew had a gun in Poland. I can tell you that.
Actually, that's true. And everybody keeps forgetting that they said, how is it possible that the Soviet Union went into Finland and they were kicked out? They had to make an agreement because they were not able to defeat them. Because Finland, like Switzerland, is the only country that has mandatory training for people, because they know that the people is their defense. So having a gun is encouraged. Going to shooting the gun to train is mandatory, because you know that when things go south, you need to have people take their guns and go get a uniform and fight for their country. That's why nobody invaded Switzerland. Not even Hitler invaded Switzerland, because they said, oh my God, this is going to be so painful. And people tend to forget that. So the whole point is that they are not serious. They think that this can be lasted out and everything. So what a libertarian solution might be, I may agree with that, is just stopping this insanity about limiting gun ownership and stuff, because
that's the easiest solution for national security. Yes,
limiting gun ownership. Limiting gun ownership makes sure that only criminals have guns. I don't know. I've seen the statistics of London, and Marco, you know it very well. I left London back in September 2018. The situation was nowhere near as bad. And now we're seeing that rapes are through the roofs, and shoplifting and stuff.
But it's not even reported, because it's not even a crime anymore. You steal less than a certain amount, they don't even.
It's not a crime. But this is the point. You cannot even defend yourself, which is crazy. Yeah, go ahead, Phil. Sorry.
The states can try to, is it not remedy, but was it, sorry, just the word popped out of my mind. The police can only, like after the fact, can do something, but you yourself can only defend yourself in that specific moment when the crime is happening to you, you know. So
in America,
that's the most effective thing.
Yeah, in America they say when seconds matter, the police is minutes away. So
but
this
the
is
problem
the point
with the police, Luca, in London, the Met, that has been turned into a political, into a tool of political repression. It's not a force that tackles crime. It's just that they're more focused on non-crime 8 incidents and stopping people. I mean, I follow a guy who goes out with a sign, you know, sort of advocating against transgender ideology. And Jesus, all you need to do is just to pick up the phone and say there's a guy with an offensive sign against the trans people, and immediately there's like 50 officers that go around him. What are you doing? You're causing distress and alarm to people. Go catch a thief, for God's sake. This is a waste of time. You know, they are not completely disinterested against crime. They all go against these people who are out there talking. You know, they'd rather harass people, you know, the Christian preachers. They'd rather harass these people who don't know nothing bad to anyone. They don't do anything illegal. They're just out there preaching for something. And they're not criminals. They're not being persecuted. So this is done willingly. They are doing this willingly because for them this is progress. Your idea has to be all the same towards what I think. So for them, this is progress. That's what they're trying to do. Progress.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read. I don't know if you've read. I think Hope Not Hate just published their annual report, and so they are a joke of an organization, but they're very dangerous because obviously they're well financed. They get lots of money. God only knows from where, but they get a lot of money.
So they have money.
Paid. They have paid analysts and scholars and everything else, and they say. And they just go there and they say everyone is right, everyone is extreme right, everyone is right wing, everyone is crazy, everyone is fascist, everyone is racist and stuff. And I would just say this is kind of the point where when we come up and we say, okay, we are libertarians, we have nothing to do with that, we are against statism, we don't like big government, and fascism means corporatism, means giving money to my friends and having people that are private businesses, but actually they are propped up by the laws and the government and everything. We don't like that. We would like zero intervention. We would like zero government, zero stuff. But we would like to have private property protected. So if you're coming into my house is my castle. This used to be the British way. If you're coming into my house and you're not authorized, I'm allowed to use any kind of force to repel you, even lethal force. And if you're coming into my house and you're breaking in and I'm shooting your head off, the government should have nothing to do with it. You said, it's very simple. You shouldn't have entered my house because private property is sacred. But then you say, yeah, but then again, how can I steal stuff from my neighbors and then think it's social justice? You cannot do that, which is why you have destroyed private property. So I'm thinking right now, because people say, people always say you never come up with solutions. So what is your solution? Well, my solution, as far as I can tell, in terms of libertarian, would be just stop wasting money. You're thinking, oh my God, next month when the energy bill comes in, we are just praying that the temperature stays up, because if it goes down and we have to turn on the heating, next month is going to be a disaster because it's going to be hundreds of pounds. So people are very worried, especially in the north, especially in Scotland. Having an energy bill that is, considering that British family they don't have as much savings as they used to have. So it's a tragedy. And I'm saying, okay, fine, but we're wasting billions and billions of pounds in net zero madness. So stop that. If you're serious, stop that. Stop wasting money on
absolutely.
On solar energy.
The problem in here, I think it goes beyond that. You genuinely have people in this country who believe that whatever the state does, it's more efficient than the private sector. You have this unbelievable sort of I have been told by people that they truly believe the state can be more efficient than the private sector, and they accused me of what they think. For example, they take the case of water industry, which is in the UK the worst possible outcome. We're having a private monopoly, which is obviously resulting in crazy high prices and cowboys basically just extracting profit from people, which is just completely wrong. We've had people arguing that they should go back to it should be nationalized because it will be more efficient. Well, of course, it will be better than the current system, if that's what you're saying, but it's not. It won't be more efficient. That's the unbelievable. And when I said, look, whatever the state does so in a very wasteful way, I truly believe that what Millet said is very true. That state spending can turn at best in waste, at worst in corruption. So there is nothing the state does that does so efficiently or as efficiently as a nice private competition system would do, because the private sector, the private companies will have to fight for their clients. If they are not providing the best value for money, Clients will
just leave.
simply go. So
Yeah.
there's no margin
It's like
for error.
the
I think-
consumer benefits, and who is the consumer? Is the 60 million people in the UK. So,
Yeah.
so it's,
I think that right now in schools, instead of just having what was that, the education secretary that said that kids from 6 to 10 years should be allowed to experiment with cross-dressing and stuff. And I'm thinking, I don't know, Mark, about you, but if they try to do that from to my nephew, I would just probably come down to London like an invading army and go look for someone.
No,
metaphorically speaking,
no,
as always.
I get that, but
if they try to do that, but rather than doing that, why don't you just screen to everyone a very short speech by Milton Friedman, where he said, what happens to money? So when you're spending your own money for yourself, you have maximum efficiency because you're obviously considering everything, cost to return and everything. When you're spending your money on someone else, obviously you are less careful, but you want to just, find a nice present and stuff, so you are still efficient. If you're spending other people's money on yourself, you're also efficient enough. You don't care as much about the cost, but you want real good quality. So the cost can be as high as you want. It's not your money, but the quality has to be good. If you're spending other people's money on other people's, obviously you have zero efficiency because the price can be up, down, I don't care. If it's rubbish, I don't care. And then again, people complain about the trains. Okay, trains in Britain are ridiculous. They're overpriced, they're inefficient, they're crazy, it's madness. And they said, what are you complaining about? You privatize them. Yeah, you privatize them in the wrong way. Look at Italy. I know it's crazy because people in the UK think that Italy is a land of crazy people that drive like maniacs and then waste money and stuff, which is true, and then we talk so loud and everything.
No,
it's
but
true.
the trains.
Think about the trains. In Italy, they said, we have to privatize the trains. What can we do? So they said, the company that manages the rail will remain public because the railways is obviously, it's financed by tickets and stuff, but it will remain in public hands because we have to maintain the tracks because the tracks have to be maintained and the infrastructure has to be maintained. And they said, it's fine, but we will allow competition. Not everywhere, but for high-speed trains, there is competition because you have 2, 3, now 4 companies that are providing alternative services. What happened? It happened that one of the most profitable air routes in the world used to be Milan-Rome. Milan-Rome was more like, London-Paris. It used to be one of the best air routes in the world. Then they opened Eurostar, and obviously it's not as profitable because with Eurostar, you go to Gare du Nord in Paris, which is downtown, and instead you're just flying to Charles de Gaulle, which is far away, or Orly, or other airports which are far away from the center, and then you have to get to the center, so it's annoying. Rome to Milan used to be very good because the airport in Milan was downtown, Linate, and then Fiumicino was not so far away. So what happened is that you have 3 companies and now 4 companies that are competing. What happened? That you can get a return ticket from Milan to Rome, which is something like 500, 600 kilometers. You can get it for something like 45 euros. Think about how much you pay in the UK for less than that. It's ridiculous.
I think Manchester to London is 70 quid. Or something like that, 80 something. Yeah.
Same day, which is exactly what people do. So if I have a meeting in Rome, what do? I take the train very early in the morning. It takes about 3.5 hours to get there. You go there around 9 o'clock, probably. You're downtown Rome. You go to your meetings. You have lunch. You meet people. Back then, 7 o'clock, you get your train. 10 o'clock, you're back home. Next day, you're in the office. And you spend what? 45 euros, 50 euros to do that. And it's pretty long road.
But
this is the right way to do things. Yeah. In the UK, you privatize them by granting local monopolies. Because on one route, you can have one company, which is the wrong way to do that. What happens? Yeah. They raise prices and the service is crap. This is what happens. But people don't want to hear that. It's baffling. I don't know.
No, it's completely, I agree. The problem that they don't see, in Italy, is still mostly public, the rail, right? And the fantastic thing that I always hear is that people go to Italy, buy a ticket, go, oh, look how cheap the ticket is, and the trains are okay, you know, they're fine. You don't realize that in Italy, even if you don't travel by train, you're paying for the ticket of the train, because when it's public, that's what happens. Even if you don't travel, you're paying for the train. So they don't see that. It's like one of those things that they never see. So the invisible hand, you know, when you spend money, you see the effect of the money that you spend, but you don't see the destruction of all the money that should have gone to all the other people that would have, you know, had services and things. You just don't see it. It's the same thing about the rails,
Yeah.
you know. They don't never see that. They just go, oh, the ticket is so cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, because other people are paying for it. Again, this is
Exactly.
great. This is
It's
great.
freedom too, isn't it? Whenever you try to convince someone, uh, they think like they should be free to a cheap ticket, right? Or
Yeah.
free to a house.
Yeah.
Again,
It
You're
should
right.
be
if
free
it
to something, right?
if it involves other people working for you for free, it's not a right, it's a privilege. So you are asking for other
Exactly.
people to pay for
Privilege
your
too.
house, to pay for your healthcare, to pay
Syntax
for your
error.
everything.
That's
Yeah.
what it is.
I know, that's it. So again, we can always go there and go back to people and say, guys, if you want to know how things are, read Frédéric Bastiat, read Milton Friedman, read von Hayek, read von Mises and stuff, because this is actually how it is. I know that then again, they're accusing us of being elitist and stuff and everything, but I know, guys, they did it best. Why should I re-explain everything that Bastiat wrote in 1840? It was there.
Yeah,
it's perfect. Just read it and educate yourself. Again, gentlemen, it's been really, really great. We are over 1 hour. We wanted to keep it tight, keep a conversation. Again, thank you, Phil, for being with us. Again, can people reach you somewhere? You have social media presence?
Not really. I'm just helping out locally, and that's that really. So I encourage anyone to help us out locally too. That's how I came around to be here.
So absolutely. So if you're interested and want to learn more about libertarianism, go to the website of the Libertarian Party UK. If you're in a position to do so, please join, because the party needs to have as many members as possible, because the more we are, the more activities we can create, the more local groups we can create, and we can fight the nonsense and the madness that is surrounding us every single day. Again, Marco, you are a member of the directorate of the party. Any news coming the next few days, next few stuff? Any information to share?
We just have some new members of the NCC joining, looking after the membership. So hopefully there will be some changes coming in that space, which is great, because previously I was the only one dealing with this, but I've got a bit too many things on my plate at the moment. If you can spare a moment, go check out on X the Libertarian Party account of Merton, which is providing some good sort of solutions to local problems. I am just gearing up all the production, all the sort of campaign towards the May elections. So I'm laying out my plans for the elections. I'm obviously going to stand in my ward in Merton. So we are building up our support. So if you want to help out and you're local, I mean, I will reach out to our mailing list members to come and help, and even just to meet and have a chat about politics. You know, lots of libertarians think that they are on their own, that they're isolated. You are probably not as much isolated as you think. So do reach out, and we'll get together and do something good.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marco, and good luck for your campaign. A lot of door knocking in the future for you. So thank again, Finn. And obviously the biggest thanks goes to all the people that have followed us and will follow us later in the week, because we know that Saturdays are very busy. People cannot join us live, but we are actually very thankful for them. Any advice, any comment you will put it on the YouTube video, we will do our best to answer. And if you know anyone that could be interested in libertarian thinking and libertarian solutions to the problems that we are facing right now, I would advise you to share the link to the X account, to the Facebook page, to the YouTube channel of the Libertarian Party UK. We will try to produce more material, more stuff in the next weeks, because the situation is not good. Let's put it this way. We need all the help we can get. I will thank you all. I thank you all again for being here with us this Saturday afternoon, and I will see you again next Saturday for episode 14 of Give Freedom a Chance. Thank you and goodbye.